Welcome to Pop Culture Legends, a mini-series from Digital Dissection, a nerd podcast. Pop Culture Legends explores the spaces in between mainstream and esoteric across the world of media. There's a lot to unbox across video games, movies, TV, and comic books. We hope you enjoy the spaces in between those spaces. Today's legend explores the 2008 hit action role-playing game Fallout 3, and a deep-seated mystery hidden within it. A strange set of circumstances can apparently lead to a radio station signal reminiscent of Cold War-era espionage. The capital Wasteland of Bethesda's hit game already has quite a reputation within the gaming industry. But did it have the power of being able to predict the future? Join us as we break down the known details of this strange story.
Fallout may be one of the most popular role-playing game franchises of the past 15 years, but in 2008, it was an intellectual property that underwent a major facelift. What was once an isometric turn-based game was now a fully realized first-person shooter, earning Game of the Year awards and introducing the franchise to entirely new audiences. It's hard to believe that a franchise so popular could go 10 years without having a major entry in its ongoing series. But there was actually a day and age where annual title releases didn't happen. The setting of Fallout 3, however, takes place in the ruins of Washington, D.C., otherwise known as the Capital Wasteland. It's a mixture of familiar with a few remaining national landmarks and craters where a lot of other things once were. If you're not familiar with the Fallout universe, on October 23, 2077, the entire world was leveled by nuclear bombs, and DC just happened to be the recipient of several of these attacks. With an atmosphere this unforgiving, it lends itself to many horrors, material struggle, and war that, well, never changes.
Fallout 3's landscape would be the backdrop for many interesting stories, whether it be quests, forgotten computer logs, or mysteries that no one can quite explain. One in particular has caused the internet to lose its mind ever since the game was released, that being the story of Fallout 3's number station. For the uninitiated, a number station is a shortwave radio station, typically utilizing spoken numbers to send messages to intelligence officers in foreign countries. Long story short, these stations do exist in real life and date back as far as World War I. If you've ever heard of Morse code, it's a similar style of communication, relying on encoded messages to relay information. Fallout 3's number station apparently operates much in the same way and involves one of the most popular post-apocalyptic stations in the Washington, D.C. ruins, called Galaxy News Radio, or GNR for short. GNR is operated by a non-playable character named 3 Dog, voiced by actor Eric Todd Dellums. Throughout the game, this radio station is used to help spread the exploits of the player character, for better or for worse.
As the story goes on, however, in-game a series of events can be initiated that alters the behavior of GNR based on the player's decisions. If the player character chooses to kill 3 Dog, one of his technicians will step in and take over his broadcast duties. In contrast to the normally boisterous and always amped up GNR host, this replacement's name is Margaret, and once 3 Dog is gone, Margaret is the only remaining option of hosting the program in-game. In addition to murdering 3 Dog, there are quests and actions that must be completed in order for the number station to appear. After triggering plot-altering events and reaching high-altitude positions in-game, these combined elements will allow for the devices to pick up the signal on the game's Pip-Boy, your portable HUD. This is where the number station story truly began causing Reddit and various Wikipedia communities to lose their minds.
After acquiring the number station signal in-game, the deceased character of 3 Dog will begin quote-unquote hosting the GNR station again, but without any of his normal charm, voice inflections, or standard behavior. From this point, 3Dog only recites a series of numbers that are all single digits. According to fandom.com, these are typically between 9 and 12 characters long. The messages are also accompanied by Morse code until the transmission signs off with the Ink Spot song, I Don't Want to Set the World on Fire, a song that Fallout 3 widely used to market the game. If the details ended here, this would already be strange enough. But of course, things only get more complicated from this point on. Various messages apparently greeted different players once they picked up the signal, with some being bizarre like, have you watched my YouTube video yet? Or, washed the car today, maybe Chinese for dinner.
Later, however, the radio transmissions began referring to real-world events, referring to the death of Gary Coleman in 2010, as well as a separate reference to the Deepwater Horizon oil spill that same year. The messages would go further on to predict Queen Elizabeth's death in 2014, as well as an apparent conspiracy that John Wilkes Booth did not in fact actually assassinate Abraham Lincoln. If these messages weren't odd enough, it would also predict that Britney Spears would win an Oscar in 2023. But this prediction could still happen, so we won't say it was completely off base just yet. One of the last messages, however, is easily the most disturbing of them all, and is dated for July 6th, 2027, and it reads, I can't believe they've actually done it. Not long left. They were warned, but they just had to keep pushing the boundaries of science. The noise. I can't take the noise anymore. And the light, dear God! The universe is slowly unraveling around us. I'm not going to wait for death. I have a pistol in the attic.
If you're wondering how it was possible for a game that came out in 2008 to predict events years after its release, well, you're not the only one asking that question. If you begin looking into this particular pop culture legend, you'll slowly figure out that it's not only incredibly unlikely, but it's entirely fiction. That's right, the internet remains undefeated as another creepypasta story used just enough detail to sound feasible. But unfortunately, it's an inflated lie. This didn't stop Fallout fans, however, from doing everything they could to ensure that the story itself was indeed made up. The first detail that debunks the myth is that the first known appearances of the story don't really trace to any dates until 2012, 4 years after Fallout 3 actually debuted. This isn't necessarily damning, as some gaming secrets take many years to discover, but online sleuths didn't stop there.
In accessing the game's files, there's no dialogue actually recorded that supports these number stations existing in any meaningful way. Not only is there nothing of note in the game's files that references the number stations, but no recorded audio exists for either 3Dog or his supposed technician Margaret that corroborates any known information on the details we previously shared. As we mentioned earlier, however, what makes this story truly believable is the fact that real number stations have existed and are, still to this day, used to relay information. Cryptography isn't a new idea, especially not for creepypasta, but using coded messages dates back as far as early Roman society. In modern day, most governments will disavow and deny any existence of secretive signal broadcasts. But many private investigators have dedicated time to trying to find these bizarre messages and listening in.
Lifehacker.com states that there are many unlicensed frequencies that will send out extremely creepy and nonsensical messages. They will inevitably seem meaningless to us because we don't have what's referred to as a one-time pad or cipher. The key to knowing how to interpret these strange combinations of Morse code, audio clips, and artificial intelligence speech that typically is sent out over these shortwave radio signals. Shortwave radio has for generations been a method used to communicate between countries. It's no surprise that it could have theoretically been adapted for international espionage.
According to BBC.com, many intelligence experts believe that number stations, while not as prevalent as they once were, still exist due to the fact they leave no record behind. In the traditional sense of keeping these messages off computers, it's far easier to destroy paper and maintain anonymity. In a 2014 article on the topic, BBC even further references that a Russian spy ring in 2010 used these methods to relay US intelligence. Depending on how far down the rabbit hole you'd like to go, we'll include a few links to recordings that some have captured and uploaded to YouTube. What you do with that information is frankly up to you, as we'd personally not want to be between governments and possibly sensitive information. As it relates back to Fallout 3, it's unfortunately a fictional tale that the internet took and made incredibly compelling. While it's a story that manages to find a new victim seemingly every year, the details are widely available across the web, and you can at least get some entertainment value from its claims. For now, however, it's a fun part of gaming history that managed to confuse and equally inspire fans to test its viability at every turn.
To quote the super mutant character of Fox from Fallout 3 itself, "In all things, a calm heart must prevail." It's probably also a good idea to update that to include a calm brain while we're at it. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Pop Culture Legends, a digital dissection miniseries. Be on the lookout for future episodes as we explore the relative unknown, as some of pop culture stories lie just outside mainstream periphery. If you like this short story, why not like, subscribe, and comment as part of the digital dissection community? Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, as well as our dynamic content on YouTube. Tell us what you think. We'd love to hear from you at digitaldissectionpodcast@gmail.com. Until next time, keep on dissecting. And beware of strange noises on AM radio.
1 attention 81371 81371 3690 1 3690 1